I'm Sarah Russell.
I'm JQ Walker.
I'm Hind, and we are
The Neurodivergent Report, a research-based podcast by and for neurodivergent brains.
In each episode, we'll explore topics relating to neurodiversity and coping strategies by reviewing the literature and discussing current topics.
We will also have interview episodes where we sit down with experts in the field and listeners like you, with the hope that together we can all learn to heal in community.
However you are able to engage, thank you for being here.
This episode on being a renter and being neurodivergent.
Yeah. I didn't ask to be born here. Why do I have to pay?
Yes. There's all these things.
My question.
There's all these people I need to give money to every month just to be here. I didn't ask for this.
No. And I'd be happy in the forest, I think.
There's so many times I'm like, if I were born in like the 800s or whatever time, I feel like I would probably just be like a little witch in the forest and have my little like forest friends or whatever, whether they're human or animal, we don't know, or of the spirit realm. I don't know how deep my witch powers would be. I don't know.
Pretty deep, I would say.
You don't know what the swamp is going to gift you.
True.
You know what? Speaking of renting, my inner
child is a swamp hag.
Swamp hag.
I love it.
Yeah. You love that?
In the news, I saw two headlines last week that are relevant to our renters subject. For the first time, investment properties outweigh first-time homeowners in the market. Also, we have now hit a record high number of rental properties here in the US of A. So that is truly a milestone for the ages.
Makes sense to me. I've also heard something, I don't know what the exact numbers were but that like the median or average, sorry, I'm going to reference something. I want to try to pull up the actual thing, but like either the median or the average like home buyer age in like 2004 was like 70 or like was born in the 70s. And then like that's still like the same as today.
It's still the same demographic.
Yes! It makes me sick. The house we're moving to, and I know this is in Australian dollars, but the house we're moving to in 1993 sold for like $78,000.
Oh, yeah.
And in 2001, it sold for just under $1 million.
God.
Yikes.
Even just from that time, like crazy.
The housing market is cooked here. I'm sure it's cooked there too. It sounds
cooked.
It sounds like the boomers are winning. They love to win.
There's another really old statistic that is there are more vacant homes than there are homeless people in the United States.
Here too.
That has been true for years, and it only gets more true every year.
That's fucking off.
We've got a politician who calls himself Purple Pingers, who posts online and shares addresses of vacant properties in where I live in Melbourne. Yeah, so people can, if they need a home, they can just go and live in there. He's a legend.
All heroes wear capes.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I've joined his political party. I donate to him because he's a big socialist boy.
Yay!
We love to see it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, well, today we are here with the wonderful Abbie. Yeah, we're gonna hard transition.
Yeah, you can have a deep cut Purple Pingers shout out.
Yeah, that I was gonna say that was
anybody else from Melbourne will be like, whoa.
True, and then we'll get like a whole new demographic of people watching the show.
True.
Totally.
If you're here from Purple Pingers?
Purple Pingers. Yeah,
Purple
that's right.
Pingers. If you're here from Purple Pingers, comment Purple Pinger Gang in the comments, guys. We're so happy you're here.
Victorian Socialists.
Yeah.
Workers United.
Yes.
Okay. Amazing. I mean, not to get all Marxist, but like now capitalism is a global phenomenon. And so the only way to actually beat it is on a global scale.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'm reading a book right now called The Ethical Imperative, Why Moral Leadership is Good for Business. And it was written in 1998. And suffice it to say, that guy did not get his advice taken.
Clearly.
But it's okay because he talks about globalism and just sort of all the things that we're seeing now. So I feel like we're just chugging along. Very smart people have been paying attention to this whole time. I'm sure of it.
I think that's true.
Please.
Anyway, okay. So right before this, I was sitting in my kitchen and I was making my hot cocoa. And my husband was like asking me about what we're going to record about. And I told him the default mode network and its role in executive functioning. And he's like, okay, quick question. What's the default mode network? And I was like, it's, it's like a collection of, I was like, it's a collection of brain pieces that like do a thing. I was like, you know what? I need Abbie on the line.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I'm just going to go.
Yeah. That's the end of the Neurodivergent Report, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah. You're right, though.
We're all here.
But I mean, like, Abbie, while you're here, I mean, if you want to, like, fill in, like, a few details, I guess. Like, we have the understanding. But if you can maybe, like, a few more details about it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it is, so the default mode network is a brain network that is was meant to be activated during rest, right? It's a cluster of key regions in the brain. It includes the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, the precuneus, and the angular gyrus. And like, they're all just anatomical words just to, I think, to demonstrate that it's a cluster, like a collection of connected areas of the brain. And yeah, essentially it's meant to be activated during rest. Yeah, there's some great pictures of the different networks in the brain now that they've done some MRI imaging. And
very
essentially what happens.
What I'm noticing though is that they're not like all in the same chunk. I'm looking at like regions lit up sort of all over the place. So yeah, so we're really talking about like a network of all the different pieces. Very cool.
Yeah. But what does it do? I guess is the question, right?
Yeah. Why do we have this framework? Why are we looking at them like a network?
Who cares, right?
Who cares?
It is. So I think I would like to put the caveat here in saying that I'm not a neuroscientist, right? I'm just a neuroscience
samesies
buff, I guess. And my understanding is that as yet and I don't know if we ever will, but as yet we still don't understand everything about the brain. But what we do understand about this network is it appears to be this cluster of regions that appear to produce like daydreaming, self-reflection, internal narration, mental time travel, hypervigilance as well. So it's part of the brain that stays online to scan your environment for danger as well.
Okay, so if anybody remembers the last time we spoke to Abbie and we were talking about the autonomic nervous system, like the automatic pieces of our sort of body, that's where this ties in. The default mode network is part of the autonomic nervous system, right?
They're linked, right? And what we know is when there is autonomic activation. So if we are in fight flight, if we're in freeze, if we're on shutdown, there will be more default mode network activity. The most interesting thing, I think, and the thing that really blew my mind when I was learning about this was that so we've got the default mode network that's meant to be active during rest. And then we've got another network called the task positive network, which is a different cluster of brain regions that is meant to be on when we are focused on external task-based activity. So when the default mode network is on, the task positive network is meant to be off and vice versa. It's called anti-correlation. But what they see in ADHD and ADHD profiles, right, is that sometimes often there is overlap. So while you're trying to focus on tasks, external based activity, your default mode network doesn't quiet down. So I'm sure, I mean, it's, that really blew my mind because I was like, that is why I just cannot seem to focus on things and shut my brain up when there's, music going on in there and I'm thinking about myself and, if you're shame spiraling, that's going to continue on. So you also don't get any reprieve from, if your default mode network, because of your experiences, has been shaped to be an unpleasant or uncomfortable place to be, it can be very difficult to get a break from it as someone with ADHD or ADHD. And I would say with autism as well, but there's not as much research available.
Yeah, so like, are you saying too, it's like it's hard to compartmentalize?
Yeah, and I mean, so essentially what is meant to happen for us is that when we're focused on I don't know, when we're focused on work or projects or you know, anything that we're doing out in the world, is ideally the default mode network turns off. So the hypervigilance and scanning your environment turns off. The self-referential thinking, which can include things like self-criticism, will turn off. Daydreaming turns off. Mental time travel turns off. All of those kinds of things. But what we see with a lot of neurodivergent profiles is that doesn't happen. Which
mind wandering, the mental time travel, those are all just symptoms of inattentive ADHD.
100%.
Actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This is reminding me of when I learned that your brain is like, yes, hiccups, and it developed a mechanism to be like, no hiccups. And that's what the default mode network sounds like. It sounds like it's just like, yes, unconscious mind. And then eventually we developed like a, no, turn that off for a bit so we can do some, like you said, task-directed activities, goal-oriented tasks, sometimes they're called. Yeah, just like higher level cognition, right? Like the executive function stuff that we normally talk about.
And it's also, I think, interestingly like reflective of different, because we have different types of attention, right? There are types of attention that are kind of like a flashlight, right? Where you are zeroing in on something specific, and you could, I mean, that I'm sure, you know, hyperfocus is a really good example of that, of that type of attention. But there's also like floodlights where you're looking at everything. And I would say that mindfulness and meditation help you develop that kind of attention. And then there is a sort of salience-based kind of attention where whatever feels the most important to you, right? Or maybe, I think important probably isn't the right word, but whatever feels, I guess, the most emotionally salient for you will be the thing that you focus on. And that might be that, you know, self-criticism or a thought loop, a shame spiral kind of thought loop, or wherever you're ruminating. And so I think that's an important part of the default mode network, right? Is it can really hijack your attention. And we need that flashlight attention to focus, right, and make a choice. But emotional salience tends to determine at the where our attention goes, which I think, and if you guys want to go into this, I can go into it. I think there's a really interesting layer here about working memory and emotional salience as well.
I'd love to jump in.
More. Yeah.
Say more?
Yeah.
So there's a sort of standardized model about working memory, which suggests that it is it's not a place. Working memory is a process, but I think to conceptualize it, we can look at it like a place that can hold only a certain number of things, right? And the idea is that neuronormative people can hold more things in their working memory than neurodivergent folks.
Mm-hmm.
What it looks like actually is that the more emotionally salient something is, or dysregulating, or, you know, however you want to put it, activating something is,
emotionally stimulating.
Yes, the more, you know, even I think that's really important, Sarah, because like excitability, when you're really excited about something, I think that's an important thing. Like emotional salience can be good as well, and positive and feel really good, but the more emotionally stimulating or salient something is, the more quote unquote space it will take up in your working memory. So the more emotionally salient something is, the less space you will have in your brain to be thinking about, I don't know, the appointment you have later today or tomorrow, or remembering to unload the dishwasher or whatever it might be, because I don't know, like for me, you know, it might be someone gave me a weird look and I might have a triggering experience around RSD, and that's all I can think about. And that means I can't take in or process much more information because all of my attention is focused on that one thing. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And like, I feel like I've had these experiences and noticed them the most when I'm kind of in a working environment. And I would guess a lot of neurodivergent people would relate to this experience of like needing to focus on doing the thing, but like maybe just something happened in your personal life, or something happened between you and a coworker or like your boss. And then that is then just on your mind, and you either want to like get it resolved or you just keep ruminating about it. And then it's hard to kind of just, you know, lock in and get the work done.
Totally. And when we have, I think it's sort of a perfect storm, I think, with neurodivergence, particularly with ADHD, because we know that there is this the anti-correlation that's meant to happen between the default mode network and the task positive network is different. Sometimes there is like default mode overactivity, or there's just delayed deactivation of the default mode network if it deactivates at all. Plus nervous system dysregulation, which can feed into default mode network activity, and it sort of ends up being can be a loop, right? And that's where I particularly with clients and stuff, and I relate to this deeply, is where you get stuck. You get stuck in loops.
Yeah, I'm thinking like this sounds a lot like all of those years of listening to people struggling to transition. Like, I'm struggling to move on to the next thing. Like, is that got anything to do with the default mode network?
Yes. So essentially switching from if we were switching from rest to work, for example, the brain struggles to deactivate the default mode network and activate task positive focus, right? And so on top of, I guess, the standard, needs for the human brain to transition, you also have 2 additional large hurdles to overcome, right? Which makes sense that it takes longer and is harder.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder, like, let's see. I'm trying to imagine what is happening in the body and or brain that is like making it difficult to deactivate the default mode network. So is there something that like maybe we just don't know yet, but is there like something that's supposed to turn it off?
Yes.
Like maybe a messenger chemical?
Yeah. Well, so there are a couple of different things, and this is may not be complete and isn't complete. So between the default mode network and the task positive network is a bridge network called the salience network, right? And what is meant to happen there is that the salience network is meant to pick up from you or from your environment that we need to switch from one to the other, right? And it helps to support that transition. But what we see in brain scans is the connectivity between all these 3 networks is different, right? And so it appears to make those transitions more difficult. And if you have your autonomic nervous system continuously pinging to your brain that we're in danger because, you might be caught in a stress cycle or be ruminating or just be in a really difficult situation, or I don't know, for me, it might be the fluorescent lighting might be flickering and I can hear it buzzing. Your brain wants to keep the hypervigilance on, so the default mode network stays on. It's just biology.
Yeah.
Wow.
Does
that
make sense? No, it makes sense.
I'm so glad I asked because I always want to know like what is happening. Maybe I could give like my brain a pep talk, like, come on, let's go, Salience Network, you got this.
You can do this. I think actually one of the most helpful things about this has been for me to be able to separate, I think, a lot of the internal chatter from myself. And sometimes, I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but I think self-compassion can sometimes be difficult for us to access, particularly if we're sort of starting on our journey of understanding ourselves and trying to support ourselves differently. But just saying default mode network, I've heard you, can sometimes be like enough of a break and give me enough separation from what is going on to help self-soothe in a easy and gentle kind of way.
Yeah.
And a more neutral way.
It's definitely a mindfulness practice, whether it works or not to help you transition. It is still like a way to practice mindfulness or self-compassion or even self-acceptance.
One thing that I'm sitting here and thinking about, because a lot of times on this show we kind of bring stuff back to the kind of the social construct of disability, specifically with like neurodiversity. And with ADHD and now with like the default mode network, I'm wondering if we lived in a society that was built mostly by people with we'll just take ADHD in this example, ADHD brains. So work maybe looked different, and maybe we didn't have as many experiences when we were younger about being corrected a bunch of times and all the other things that kind of lead to like, the other negative mental health things that come with being ADHD in those kinds of environments. Like if we would see a lot more potentially the benefits of having a brain where these 2 networks are simultaneously working together.
Maybe. I actually think, and look, this is based on like, this is a personal perspective and based on sort of my practice and what I understand about the science, is that our experiences in the world will shape our beliefs, the way that we think. You know, the brain and the nervous system are always going to, or always is a strong word, are generally going to automatically default to whatever is the most efficient. And usually what's the most efficient is stuff we've done again and again and again and again. That's why the same thoughts and the same beliefs and stuff come up as well, right? And they help us with pattern recognition in the world. You know, the brain is a pattern recognition machine as well. What my take on it is that because of us, so many of us had so many adverse experiences in systems and relationally, right, it has set us up to prioritize hypervigilance, maybe over focus.
Okay. So instead of the explanation potentially being, instead of this is an inherent thing with someone who has ADHD, it's more of this is a learned thing with someone who's ADHD.
I think so. That's what it appears to be. That's what makes it make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got this.
Last time we were talking about the autonomic nervous system, and we were also talking about the vagus nerve. Does the vagus nerve have anything to do with the default mode network? Is that where the hypervigilance comes from?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it's the default mode network, the vagus nerve, and the prefrontal cortex are all related and can appear, and you know, together in a neurodivergent brain, the emergent property can look like executive dysfunction. Right. So essentially the prefrontal cortex, which I'll start with, helps regulate default mode activity through top-down control. And by top-down control, that is essentially a little bit what we're talking about before about talking to your default mode network, is the capacity for you to essentially self-regulate internally.
You got it.
When we have poor vagal tone, or a chronically stressed, or, you know, feel dysregulated a lot of the time, which is completely normal given a lot of the environments that a lot of us are in and our experiences, it means that the brain has a harder time inhibiting the default mode network during tasks. And that's essentially because the vagus nerve and the prefrontal cortex are intimately connected. And we know that the higher the vagal tone, or the more, for lack of a better term, regulated we are, the more access we have to the prefrontal cortex and that top-down control we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you end up seeing is what looks like, and this is purely because our systems are prioritizing survival, right, is reduced cognitive flexibility. So it might be like rigidity, right, or getting stuck, poor task initiation, struggles with transitions, persistent overanalysis because our default mode network doesn't turn off. And we know actually from the research that if the default mode network is on for too long, and I can't tell you how long that is.
It's different for everybody. Surprise!
It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
But if it's on for too long, it will always inevitably take on a negative tone. So self-referential thinking will become critical after a particular period of time, for example. Or, you know, if we're scanning our environment, we will start to see danger cues the longer our default mode network is on. Right. So I guess the underlying premise from a nervous system perspective is that without felt safety, the nervous system deprioritizes tasks or focus on tasks, which might also be deprioritizing curiosity and creativity and focus to fuel the default mode network because of our experiences and how it's responding to our internal and external environment.
That was a really good job.
Yeah, a really good job. And again, like this whole, I felt this way last time where we recorded, where I'm like, I feel like I want everybody to know this information. I need it to be screamed from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Because I feel like we're giving the default mode network a really, really hard time right now. And it definitely has a purpose. You know, it's a baddie in its own right.
It's a baddie.
It is.
So let's just like hype it up a little bit. I don't know, top 3 strengths of the default mode network.
Are you feeling bad for the default mode network right now?
I think
so. I am.
Yeah, I hear you. It's not an enemy.
So we need to positively reframe, right? Because of
course.
Yeah.
So And I think that's a really important an important part. One of my personal heroes, Sarah Payton, and I'm going to probably misquote what she said. Essentially, posits that the default mode network is primed in human beings to be a really loving and safe space. Right? That's what it's meant to be, like that. But, for so many of us, because of, as I said, because of all our, relational, societal, structural experiences, it can become our minds can become a challenging and unfriendly place to be. And that is a normal response to the experiences that we've had. And I think that also it's important to say that these patterns aren't a sign of anything other than how the brain and body adapt to internal and external demands and experiences. It's trying to protect us even when it gets in the way. But I guess, what is the purpose of it? Self-referential thinking is really important. It helps us construct and maintain a sense of identity and autobiographical memory. It's also the part of the brain that tells us that we're separate from others as well. It helps us with mental stimulation and creativity. So imagination, might be imagining future scenarios. So like if you are someone who, I respond really well to visualization, particularly meditation, the default mode network can support that. Planning, social cognition as well. So perspective taking from others, reflecting on others' intentions or opinions, moral reasoning and introspection. So evaluating your decisions and values and emotional states can happen in the default mode network is responsible for that. And I think go ahead.
Also just found a study that suggests the default mode network might have something to do with perceiving beauty. And
yes.
Yeah, it might, seeing something nice,
yes.
aesthetically pleasing might activate the default mode network, which reminds me of that nature research that we read about being in green spaces, being
with
good.
the awe. So,
holy cow.
That was the first, that was a while back. Yeah, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Episode 3, no, 4. Yeah. Anyway, the nature episode.
But interestingly enough, so if that is true, and then we were talking before about how when the default mode network is on for too long, that it ends up being like a negative thing, then I wonder if a lot of neurodivergent people also struggle with body image or body dysmorphia and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Well, they do.
Yeah, I was just I'm pretty sure, but I don't want to state something like this is fact.
Oh, 100%.
They do.
Yeah.
100%.
Huh.
Yeah.
This has been recently a whole big kind of character arc for me. Has not only been like the way I look in photos, but also I've been in a band. So it's been a lot of hearing my singing back. And I'm just oh my God, I'm hearing this. And it's usually when I'm listening for too long. And all of a sudden I'm just this is awful. This is so bad. Everyone's no, it's really good. And I'm just I know what I'm hearing and I don't hear that. So I wonder if it's related. I don't know. But yeah.
I mean, it is if we have been primed, and I think I would just say culturally we are primed to put ourselves down and criticize ourselves and feel like we're not good enough. Whatever you're marinated in, growing up will shape how your default mode, the tone of your default mode network, which I hope also helps to explain why self-compassion can be such a difficult thing to access for some people, because it might be a really drastic shift. And if someone has been mean to you for 20 years, right, and they suddenly start trying to be nice, are you going to trust them? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think is why also I'm a big proponent of self-neutrality as a stepping stone towards self-compassion.
Yeah.
I love that. When jumping right out of bed is too hard, just try sitting up.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, if you can't love yourself,
just be neutral.
Just be neutral.
Yeah.
You're okay.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
You're fine.
You're existing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beginning would be if you scroll on your phone for 4 hours a day or whatever, and there are many of us that do, and you want to reduce that, commit first to scrolling on your phone for 4 hours a day. That's where you begin.
That's good advice.
Wow. That's sweet. Back to our notes.
Are we jumping? I think we only have one more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have talked about regulating the default mode network, but I would imagine that you don't regulate just one part of your brain, right? You regulate your whole self, right?
Yeah. And I think that, if we are talking about regulating the default mode network, it would be, let me think about, because it is real generally like, let me look through my notes actually, because my brain has just gone dead.
Totally.
Dude, yeah. Do what you gotta do.
Because it is like, I'm just talking to you guys now, but like about bottom up, and the default mode network's up here, right? And so I think, okay, I've got it. There is a lot of ways to, so what we know from the research, particularly with the default mode network, is that, and I think it's really important to put a caveat here for neurodivergent folks, that neurodivergent friendly mindfulness and meditation can improve connectivity between the default mode network, salience network, and task positive network. So you do get more anti-correlation. So the default mode network does start to switch off when you want it to.
What
and
does
I can say that from experience.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Just because I know you're on a roll, but I'm wondering if you have like a kind of a general explanation of what neurodiversity positive mindfulness looks like.
Well, I mean, I think it can be very personal, right? But I think, for example, for people who are, and a lot of us, a lot of neurodivergent people might be stuck in like an activation loop, right? Where we are feeling stressed, we can't rest. It's really difficult to stop, even if we want to. And so for a body in that state, something like stillness can be extremely dysregulating, right? So instead of sitting still and focusing, right, it might just be, I mean, I think we talked about the seaweed last time, like doing a little bit of movement, right? I really love weird mindfulness.
Yeah.
Imagine that you are a jellyfish and move that way. It might be like think about the shape and volume of your right foot. Essentially, the idea with weird mindfulness is to activate your brain in such a way that there is enough going on in there and there is enough problem solving for you to do in a strange and novel kind of way, that you can be in your body for a second.
That's so interesting because I've always kind of felt like, because I've done like some research on mindfulness, but I always felt like so hypocritical because I would never really do mindfulness, and I would try and I'm just like, I never really. And then also I think like what's also kind of related is like grounding exercises, like when you're getting really anxious and like, oh, it's like, look at, the colors of the rainbow, find the red, orange. And I'm like, I'm doing it and it's not working. I feel like I'm still kind of doing it passively while I'm upset. And I think this is great. Like I'm excited to try this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other ones are like, if you have access and you feel like you can, and you can make yourself laugh at what is going on for you. The example might be, which is one that I really like, is like singing about what's going on.
Ooh,
right? So if you don't want to do something, or if you're struggling to get up, sing about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is self-validating. It's also, there's a little bit of bonus vagus nerve stimulation. You might make yourself laugh, which can help disrupt the stress loops.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things you like doing. If there is something that you, and I want to preface this by saying that some people have been in these cycles for so long that they cannot remember what they like, and that is normal and understandable.
It's so normal.
Right? So normal. And so it is about, these, and I think the other important part of this is to you can get creative. Anything that is going to get you into your body or get you into the present moment for 1 second, right? And that's all I would ever ask, is for there to be 1 second, is 1 second of that loop being disrupted, right? And if you do that 5 times over the day, right, you've had 5 disruptions to something that can get bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on.
Yeah. And really so snowball into a large amount of time.
Absolutely. And so those things are really meaningful. And if you feel 1% better after doing something, then you're going in the right direction. I found a list.
Yeah, I love creative mindfulness.
So talk to your surroundings like they're sentient. So you might thank your kettle for doing a good job at boiling the water today, right?
I love that.
Or you might say, chair, you hold me like you mean it and I love you. Right? Plant, you've got better boundaries than I do. I don't know.
Shout out plant.
Shout out to the plant. You can, this is more like, this is going to be very personal, but like, I think it's funny to pick a random object nearby and think about asking it existential questions about its life. Lampshade, do you feel afraid of the dark?
Pen, do you always get upset that you're always being told what to say?
100%.
What are we doing?
Blue pen, are you sad that you don't get used for corrections?
Poor blue pen.
Poor blue pen.
Yeah.
Anything that is meaningful to you.
Yeah.
You can put on a song and move to the opposite to the vibe. You can put on a really boppy song and do some interpretive dance.
Yeah. Tai Chi.
Yeah. Humor and meaning can be incredible tethers to this kind of work. So whatever is meaningful to you and whatever feels creative and interesting and silly and enjoyable, even if, maybe you don't have access to those feelings, but you get a sense of it, is you have my full-throated support, because I think that part of the struggle with mindfulness and meditation for a lot of people is that it's not meaningful to them. There's lots of blanket things about what you should do rather than things that actually feel good or feel supportive. And sometimes can be, I think, another way to shame ourselves. If the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing doesn't work for us, then we feel like maybe there's something wrong with us. And it's like, no, that's just not for you.
Yeah. It's also with something like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, or like the colors thing specifically. I think it's because learning numbers and the basic colors are things that you usually associate with children. So not being able to do that, I think, could also have some kind of tie of like, oh, this, like, am I, like, are children even able to? And I think having that perspective of just like, this is just not for you. And there could be some kind of numerical fun thing that would be made for you, or like some kind of color fun thing that would be made for you. But yeah.
Yeah. If you are into, like I am, if you're into paint pigments, maybe you could do it like that. Look for particular paint pigments. That's my thing at the moment.
Like the Hexplode kind of thing? Or
100%.
Dude! Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, look for Pantone colors. Like make it your own, make it meaningful, make it as layered as you need.
That meaning. Fantastic.
I love you guys. You're the best.
I was literally just thinking to myself, and I was like, I don't know. I'm going to say this, is that I felt this way again after last time we went on a call. And I was just like, I have loved everyone who has been on the Neurodivergent Report. They're all amazing. I feel like I've learned so much even from their experiences. But I feel like this information that you are bringing to me, again, I want to shout from a brew test, but it feels like genuinely like it will change my mindset on life and like going through life. Like, this is amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what to say. That's beautiful. And it's been like transformative for me.
Yeah.
And so, thank you. It's very kind.
I'm just like, I'm happy that it made you happy, but I'm just saying how I feel. So
yeah, I know. I don't know how to accept these things. I'm really trying.
You're just like, take the crinkly dollar.
Yeah. Well, did we cover all the things we wanted to cover? How are we feeling?
Let me check my notes. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even went back to the original notes, and at the very bottom is a list of all the different ways that you can ground yourself, and like the different ways that the default mode network might be impacted by that action. Grounding anchors the body in, attention rather than sort of that mind wandering loop. The co-regulation, which is really like what we've been doing this whole time, it feels like.
Big time.
Yeah. Again, that like minimizing the emotional dysregulation gives your brain more access to your brain. No. But yes.
But actually. Yeah.
Dang.
It unlocks doors in the brain. Big time.
Yeah.
The only thing I've got is like I've got some notes on how this altered connectivity with the default mode network appears in different neurodivergent profiles. I don't know if you guys would want that though. So what it looks like for ADHD, maybe for autism, PTSD I've got as well.
I mean, I'm interested to hear it. And if it's like, we could always cut it if it feels too like outside of what we talked about. Like, what do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm curious how it would be different because, so like, okay, so for ADHD, mind wandering is like a pretty classic. You know, that's like,
she's the oldie but goldie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
But like mind wandering for PTSD sounds like triggers.
Maybe it can be. So because the default, so if we're looking at CPTSD or people who've experienced trauma, the default mode network can be shaped to be really geared towards self-monitoring and shame and internalized fear, particularly around relationships, right? So people might find themselves constantly replaying moments of perceived failure or rejection or threat. And dissociative states that you find in complex PTSD are often a reflection of the dominance of the default mode network, where attention is absorbed in something else. It might be past memories, imagined worst case scenarios instead of the present moment. So that's how, I guess, complex trauma, and we know that the overlap between complex trauma and neurodivergent people is a big one. That's how it can appear when people have CPTSD as well.
We should probably do a whole episode on CPTSD because
for people with autism, the default mode network can be the driver for things like intense internal social analysis. So like replaying conversations, predicting outcomes, scripting interactions, practicing, rehearsing, those sorts of things, which can be supportive, right? But that internal focus can sometimes become overwhelming, especially when you're in socially demanding or ambiguous environments. And sensory overload can trigger shutdown states where the default mode network can become dominant, which pulls the attention inward and away from engagement. Right. So those sorts of, I guess, it's like an internalized meltdown, which I know that a lot of, well, from my experience, and that's how my meltdowns are internal.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Which is something that we could maybe go into in a future episode if you wanted to, because I think that different flavors of meltdowns and things like that is really important. I just got distracted there as a crow going through our bin outside. Just having a great time.
Get a little snack. Yeah.
Just a little I think it dropped a beer can somewhere the other day. I was like, what is that doing there? Anyway.
Well, with that.
It's been so great having you.
Yes.
Again.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
We love you, Abbie. And we love you people who are listening. Actually, no. I don't know you. But I'm just gonna
We love that you're listening.
Cool. We love that you're listening.
Thank you for being here, Abbie.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. If you want to connect with the Neurodivergent Report, you can find us at ND Report Pod on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Substack, etc.
If you're looking to support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Please do that.
And hey, if you want to check out more about us, visit our website at ndreportpod.com. And you can also go there if you want to be a guest contributor on the show.
Until next time, be well, do good.